Man, we got to kind of pass this back and forth. But
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
cool.
the biggest deal. All right, I'll introduce you real quick. All right. Like it's a talk show. All right, I'm here with Jody Turdosovic, my newest Croatian brother, by the way. We were playing for the Croatian national team. We're about to get going. We're excited for that. But just wanted to sit down and ask Jody a couple questions about his career. So thank you for jumping in and hanging out. But, man, first things first, like, what do you feel like you know now after your, how many years did you play? 13 years? 15-year professional career. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you were in high school or college?
Yeah, thanks for having me. There's quite a few things that I wish that I knew as a high school player, college player, that I know now that I wish somebody would have told me, as a young hitter. Different approaches, how guys were going to pitch to me, situational hitting. In high school, we just kind of bang. We just see the ball, hit the ball, hunt fastball. There's so many more things to hitting than just getting in the cage, taking hacks, and then going and getting your 4 at bats. That if you're a high level high school baseball player, college baseball player, that these are things that can help you. How are guys going to pitch me in this situation? How are guys going to pitch me in this count? Is a base open? I didn't know what a base open meant until I was in my couple years into pro ball. Who's hitting behind me? Who's hitting in front of me? Taking pitches with a base stealer on base. Letting him get into scoring position for me. There's a lot of things that, I wish somebody would have, talked to me about. And I had a lot of guys that would come back and work out at my high school that I went to that were in pro ball, but they were young into their careers. As I'm a coach of high school baseball now, I try to give this information to my kids, and it really opens these kids' eyes. I mean, it would have opened my eyes. It would have opened your eyes, learning these different things to help us in game.
What are specifically some of those things that you feel like have helped you out a lot, or that specifics, like you talk about? Sorry, you talk about like specific situations, and if you could, one thing that I like to give to my guys is that they are higher level players, and so we have the time now to really dive into like the specifics of what exactly did you learn from like your favorite coaches or players in the big Chipper Jones and these guys? Like, what are some specifics that they helped you learn that you could specifically pass it on to younger players today, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Talk about.
So, one thing that really helped me develop as a hitter as I got older was, honing into zones. Okay, like not hunting fastballs, but hunting zones. Okay, somewhere I can do damage with. I was a switch hitter, so I had different zones from each side of the plate that I handled better to do damage. And ultimately, we want to do damage in the games. So, like for me, down and in, inner part of the plate, left-handed was where I wanted to hunt. As opposed to, could I hit a fastball away and take my single to left early in the count? Or maybe waiting a pitcher out and waiting for him to make a mistake to where I could hit a double, hit a homer, drive some guys in. I wasn't a speed guy. I was a guy that had to drive guys in to make my career last as long as it did. So one example I give my high school kids is I played with Freddie Freeman. And early in his career, Freddie obviously was a great player his entire career. But what I think Freddie has done better at the last 6-7 years as opposed to when I played with him is that his hand-eye coordination was so unbelievable. He'd go up there, swing first pitch, hit a single to left. Well, Freddie couldn't steal a bag. So what Freddie started to do later in his career is hunt pitches that he could do damage with. So now you started to see his home run numbers go from 13, 14, 15, 17 to in the 30s. He didn't get any stronger. He looks like the same player, but now he's hunting pitches early in the count that he can drive out of the ballpark. Instead of just taking a single to left with 2 outs, the pitcher would say, "Thank you, thank you, Freddie. You hit a single to left. You're on first base now. Now it's going to take 2 hits to drive you in." And I think that's what's taken his career to really another level. An MVP, World Series MVP, and I haven't talked to him about it specifically about his changes, but just watching him as a young player develop into now this guy that just drives in 120 runs, hits 30, 35, 40 homers, walks. To me, that's the biggest difference is watching him. We had a game where he was facing Jose Fernandez, and he swung at the first pitch 3 at-bats in a row. And each pitch was a different pitch, different zones, different pitches. Hit a single to left his first at-bat on a backdoor breaking ball. Next at-bat was a fastball in, drove it out of the ballpark. Next at-bat was a changeup down and away, first pitch, single to left.
Wow.
So 3 at-bats, he had 3 hits. But could he have waited him out a little bit more to maybe do some more damage, which I think is what he's doing now? And I didn't think about that, until I was 26, 27, 28 years old. Hunting pitches I can do damage with, looking zones. I was always a guy who's like, if you throw me a fastball for a strike, I'm putting a swing on it.
Yeah.
To where I'm going to take that fastball away, borderline pitch, and maybe he hangs me a breaking ball in my zone the next pitch. Maybe he hangs a changeup. Maybe he tries to come in. And now I can do my damage.
All right, one question off of that. So when you talk about hunting zones, are you hunting where you want the ball to end up, or do you have an idea of, okay, I'm hunting lefty down and in? It's like you have a really good idea of where you need the ball to start. So is that what you're looking for? Like, are you looking at windows? Like, that's my hardest thing when I take time off. It's like I forget where the ball needs to start sometimes. Like, is that something that you feel like you can train, or is that just from focus? And is that exactly what you're doing? Looking for a window of where you need the ball to start?
Yeah, so it depends on, obviously this is a little bit more high-end stuff. You've had to have faced some guys, get a feel for what they throw. And nowadays you have video of everyone. These kids play in the Perfect Game tournaments, and you can look up online and see what this guy throws, his different pitch mix, his velocities. For instance, if I'm facing a cutter guy, big cutter guy, I tend to look out for the ball out over the plate.
Yes.
The way he's going to get me out is in off the plate with his cutter. So giving up in, okay? Looking for the ball to start out over the plate and looking for it to come into my zone. Not starting in my zone, because then now it's a ball. That's where he's beating me. Sinker slider guy. From the left side of the plate, I would look for the ball elevated and to start middle. So I could adjust to either the breaking ball coming into me to drive, or a sinker that's going to run maybe out over the plate, but it's elevated and I can do damage to the opposite field. But yeah, hunting zones is dependent on who is on the mound, what their repertoire is. I'm not gonna have the same approach against a sinker baller that I am a guy that's a spin rate 4-seam guy.
Yes.
I'm not gonna have the same approach against a 4-seam spin rate guy that maybe throws a spin rate fastball and the big curveball as I am a guy that's a cutter slider split guy. I'm gonna have different approaches to what the guy's gonna give me. I'm not gonna hunt a 4-seam fastball if a guy throws his cutter 78% of the time. I'm not. He's not gonna throw. Why would he throw me a 4-seam fastball if he doesn't throw it to anybody else?
Sure.
So it just depended on, and as I occurred more time in professional baseball, you start seeing like, oh, I faced this guy 10 times. Okay.
Or someone like him.
Or someone similar to this guy.
Bucketing guys.
Yeah.
This is this guy. This is this guy.
Yes. And from the right side, I came up with an approach when I went to Mexico that worked because a lot of their pitchers are very similar. Cutters in off the plate, changeups away, big backdoor breaking ball, to where it was their stock left-hander. And I would look for the ball out over the plate, elevated, because I wanted the ball up from the right side of the plate, but look to drive the ball back to the middle. I'm not trying to hit the ball to the opposite field on a pitch up and away, so that when he did miss with his cutter out over the plate, I'm not pushing it to right. So it took me a long time to realize these things. So that's what I'm trying to teach my high school kids. You don't have to know the guy. You don't have to have faced him, but you can watch him in warm-ups. You can watch him in the bullpen. You can see he's got maybe a little natural cut to his heater. Maybe he's got the big slow curveball. Maybe he's got a tight slider. But you've faced somebody in the past that is similar to what you're going to face that day.
Yes.
And the more at-bats you get in game, the more information you get against those type of guys. I don't think you should ever have the same approach when you're facing a lefty or a righty. They're different.
Yes.
Bro,
I got to touch on one thing.
Yeah.
I feel like so many guys tell me, this was me, righty or lefty, I'm thinking oppo gap. Like I'm gonna take the ball to right center field. And over the course of my career, it's like no. A lefty, I actually needed to do the opposite. Like I need to pull him a little bit more pull side. And one thing you touched on that I think is my favorite thing right now is that you mentioned from the right hand side, a pitch up and away. You're not looking to go oppo gap with that because it might screw you. It might be too far to where if something does come inside, now you're a little stuck or your barrel's a little late.
A little beat to where it's a damage pitch.
Yes, and this is where I had Trevor Story and Matt Carpenter separately tell me something very similar. Trevor said, man, when I feel like I'm taking a middle away pitch and I'm pulling it up the middle, I feel like I can hit anything.
Yeah.
And Carpenter told me that when he showed me the plate, he put a ball a little out in front, middle away, and said, I'm hitting a homer on this pitch to center field. I'm like, so you're pulling it to center field? He's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything inside, he can just pull his hands in.
Yeah.
Hit it to the foul pole. That's a concept that I feel like a lot of guys haven't heard, but it's huge for like finding your best swing and figuring out how to deliver the barrel is pulling the ball up the middle.
Yeah.
Is that a feel that?
So it's funny that you say carp because, I heard through the grapevine of my years playing that Matt Holliday had this approach, and they played together in St. Louis. So I don't know if Matt gave him that approach or if he got that approach from Holliday or they just both happened to have the same approach. But I had always heard that Holliday wanted to pull the ball back to the middle. He wanted to drive the ball out of the ballpark to center, left center on pitches away. And when I'm feeling at my best, I always felt like I could handle any pitch in the zone and drive it through the middle.
Yes.
So that pitches that are damage pitches, I'm not pulling them foul for a long strike. And pitches that are away, I'm not just flicking the ball to left field for a single.
Yes.
Pitches that good pitches that are out over the plate that I can still hit out of the ballpark to center field. Drive a guy in the right center field gap and still stay on it, but I'm pulling the ball to center. I love that. But it would be interesting to see if Carp had ever heard Holliday talk about that.
Yeah,
because
we're still buddies. I actually went with Carp up to Holliday's place in Oklahoma, which is the premier place to hit. It was awesome. We played pickleball all day. It was a warm up, and then would hit. It was a dream. And Jackson, they're such studs.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one more question about like switch hitting. Just feels like such a difficult thing. Like, we're constantly trying to just feel good from one side of the plate, and now you throw in a whole nother side. Like, how did you go about training both sides of the plate, and how often were you really confident on one side and then they'd bring in another pitcher and you're like, here we go, I got to go righty, like how often does that really happen, and how can you stay through your training or whatever do you feel like you're feeling good enough on both sides to where you can compete?
Yeah, so I've switched it my whole life. So when people ask me what's my natural side, I'm not 100% sure. I know that, with me taking the last couple of years off to go into coaching and coming back now from the left side, I feel like I can always put together a good at-bat left-handed. I can go out there right now, I feel like I can put together a good at-bat from the left side. Right-handed's a little bit different. It took a little bit more work. Being with Chipper in spring training for a couple of years, I had some bad years from the right side. I did. I had some great years. If I could have brought my right-hand side closer to my left-handed side, it could have improved my numbers. And then late in my career, I came up with that approach. That ball out over the plate. Don't try to do too much damage from the right side because I get less at-bats from the right side, right? So my timing's not going to be as good. It's very hard to stay locked in from the right side for me because I might go a week without facing the lefty, right? So, I always wanted right-handed to feel like I'm just trying to grind out an at-bat. I'm just trying to find barrel. Where left-handed, I'm trying to do more damage. I had some.
The swing is there.
Yes, the swing's there, but the feeling is, and I found in my career that less lefties wanted to challenge me. Lefties wanted to fool around a little bit more. They wanted to pitch off the plate. They wanted to, there wasn't the. You face a lot more righties nowadays that are mid-90s that think they can throw fastballs by you. They want to challenge you more. Lefties, you're getting the guys that are thumbers. You're getting more thumber righty lefties. Crafty, yeah. So I always felt like I couldn't go into the box right-handed and just let it eat. I couldn't. I wasn't going to get challenged enough to do that, and I didn't get enough at bats to feel that comfortable to do that. Switch hitting's hard. It's obviously I am really happy that my dad taught me to switch hit. You know, there's a couple times in my career where I had an injury and I had to hit left on left, and it was uncomfortable.
Sure.
Hit right on right against some knuckleballers, but it's double the work. You know, you got to put it the same amount of time in, especially growing up when you're learning to switch hit. Then you get to professional baseball and you're facing 4 out of 5 are going to be righty, right? You know, you're going to have 500 bats in a season and maybe 350 from the left side. So obviously you're going to work more from the left side. You want to be locked in for those 350 at bats, as opposed to your 150, grind out your at bats, get my knocks. But yeah, switch hitting wasn't easy. But I had two different approaches from both sides of the plate, and I think that if you look at the careers of some of the best switch hitters ever, Chipper Jones is the only one to ever hit 300 from both sides.
Wow. Yeah.
So think about that. Like, it's not easy to do, but every switch hitter had a better side.
Yeah, for sure.
And they weren't the same hitter from both sides. It's rare. Some guys have more pop from the left side. You see it on TV all the time. This guy's a switch hitter, but we're going to turn him around because he's known to do less damage from this side of the plate. I don't know the stats on Tommy Edman, but I remember them talking about him in the playoffs, about one of the sides of the plate was where he did all his damage. I forget which side it was, but I was like, yeah, so is every other switch hitter, you know? But yeah, it's been a great ride. And back to your point from the start is there's a lot of information that from us playing as long as we have, that we've accumulated information from us doing it, from us playing with some great players,
Exactly.
looking at ways that they do things, guys that had similar abilities than us. You know, I'm not going to go up to the plate and I'm not going to say, I want to try to do what Judge does. You know, we're different. You know, we're different. But at the same time, I'm not going to try to do what Juan Pierre did. You know, we're different players. You know, try to find somebody that you think you're similar skills-wise, and kind of try to follow what their path is and what their approach is. Because I see a lot of kids today, they try to follow the Judge. Okay, Judge is 6'7", 270 pounds. Okay, if Pedroia tried to do what Judge did, would Pedroia have been a multi-year All-Star?
Absolutely not.
Would he have been the starting second baseman for the Red Sox for 12 years? You know, it's different. If Judge tried to be a speed guy like Juan Pierre, you know, be who you are.
Yes.
Be who you are, know who you are, look yourself in the mirror, know, okay, I'm not the power guy that maybe my teammate is. Maybe I'm an on-base guy. Maybe I'm a gap-to-gap guy. Maybe I'm a grind out at bats type guy, you know? And if you're a speed guy, be a speed guy. There's places in the game for guys that are speed guys that get on base, guys that set the table. Be who you are. I always tell my kids all the time, be who you are. Don't try to be who this guy is, okay? Don't try to be, the high school hitter that hit 20 homers in a season. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
Be who you are. Be where your feet are. Be who you are. Don't try to be anybody else.
That was awesome. And it actually brings me to a point is that I had played with a guy, Wesley Wright, left-hand pitcher for the Astros, played forever. He was awesome. And we had another lefty pitcher who his walk-up song just did not match his personality. And his personality, this is a California guy, like borderline hippie, and it was like he was always trying to get really fired up. And Wesley's like, hey man, you're not pitching to your personality. Like, you need to figure out who you are and hone in on that. And like, it's hard trying to be someone else. So I really recommend to guys, it's like, and I've heard Eugene Bleecker, he says that everyone has like a song inside of us, or like a rhythm, a tempo, and you need to figure out what that is, and you need to apply that. Like, dude, Bregman might be somebody he's got to get going a little bit, you know? Exactly. And you got other guys who need to sit there and have some rhythm, but be more calm and slow things down.
The guys I always looked at with the calmness was Robinson Cano.
Oh.
You know, he wasn't a guy that wanted to be super wired.
Yeah.
Beltran, You know, those are guys that I modeled my left. Tried to my thought process as a left-handed hitter. Okay, what are their thought processes? Relax, be calm. I couldn't be a guy in the box that was super wired.
But
I had
righty.
to relax. But the right side, I was a little bit more like grind it out. You know, what type of hitter am I?
So
You know,
who would you look at righty? You know, you said Cano and Beltran that you like those guys lefty. Who are the guys that you feel like were good comps for you right-handed?
You know, I played with Trey Mancini, and
Love
he was
Trey.
and he was a line drive guy. You know,
Yeah.
he drove out some balls out of the ballpark, but we were teammates, and
Just a good hitter. He wasn't a
my
power
right-hand
guy.
swing changed a lot through my career. My left-hand swing, I feel like, was the same my entire career. Right-handed, I always tinkered with some things. You know, spread out, close together, hands here, hands here.
Yeah.
Wanted to feel different things, more of like a comfortability of almost tricking myself to feel good. Because it's hard to feel good when you haven't had an at-bat in 7 days.
Wow. Tricking yourself to feel good.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not 90% of the battle.
Yes. You if you don't feel good in the box, you're not going to hit. You can have the perfect swing.
And you're not going to feel good all the time.
And you're not gonna feel
So you have to trick yourself.
You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, you don't hit 300 without mixing in 2 or 3 hits on days that you don't feel great. There's days you're going to show up to the ballpark and you're going to feel great and you're going to go for. So what are you going to do on the days that you don't feel good? Are you just going to cash it in?
Yep.
Or are you going to grind out some bats? Maybe work a walk that day. Maybe
Yep.
try to go 1 for 3 with a walk. Trick yourself to feel good. You know, that walk and that single might get you going. You know, don't just throw bats away because you don't feel great.
Yeah.
That's the time to really. I'm going to have some quality at bats today. And you know, if I get a knock, awesome. If I work a walk, even better. You know, and keep this thing going in the right direction. Instead of taking your 0 for 31, your 0 for 40.
Yeah.
Because you're like, man, I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good. Well, if you say you don't feel good, you're not going to feel good.
Exactly.
Trick yourself. Our brains are smart enough to trick ourselves into to putting together at bats.
Yeah.
Put together 4 at bats that day. Quality at bats. You're gonna find a knock, and if you don't, you're gonna feel better the next day. To have your two or 3 hit game. You know, my dad used to say, get 1 hit, 1 walk a game.
Yeah, it's
The
everything.
2, the 3, the 4s will come. 1 hit, 1 walk a day. Keep that mentality. You're gonna have your 3, 4 hit days. You're gonna have those days.
Yeah.
So.
That's so awesome, bro. And I feel like celebrating your wins. Like I see guys that a blooper will fall, younger players, and it's like, oh, well, I'm jammed again. And it's like, no, dude, this game is way too hard. And sometimes you need a blooper to get things going, you know?
Yeah.
All right, last question for you. Going back to being a switch hitter, is it a mistake for young hitters to try to feel as good on one side of the plate as the other, or try to match the feels? Like, should you consider both sides of the plate as a different swing each, or do they blend into each other? Like, I just feel like your lefty feels. You can take a month off and feel fine left-handed. Righty, you need to get in there and feel some stuff. But like, I feel like a lot of guys, my guess is that, man, why doesn't my right feel as good as my left? Like, I need to really figure that out. Versus maybe it's a different swing. Maybe it's different feels. Maybe you need a different approach from one side of the plate compared to the other.
Yeah, I think that the approach from both sides, I think that you have to have. I was not the same hitter from the left side that I was the right. Now, I don't know if that's because I hit balls out of the ballpark from the right side. There's some balls that I hit a long ways. It wasn't as consistent as the left-handed side. And that could be because, like I said about the pitching, maybe I wasn't challenged enough. Maybe the left-handed pitchers fooled around, didn't really give in to making a mistake. Whereas maybe the righties that I faced felt like they could sneak a heater by me. You see a lot of right-handed pitchers that throw hard sliders. Well, a hanging hard slider, you guys throwing 95 and he's hanging a slider at 88, it's not that big of a difference. I can still let it go. You got a lefty that's throwing a big slow curveball and he's cutting it in off of you and he's making you uncomfortable. You try to get your knocks. Yeah. I don't know why I was a different hitter from both sides of the plate. I know that I was, and once I identified that and I didn't try to make right-handed catch up to lefty. Righty was never going to be as good as left-handed. It wasn't. Yeah, there were some years I hit 300 from the right side, but a lot less damage. And I was fine with that. I was fine with that because I was going to get 350 at bats from the left side. You know, if I could grind out 280, 300 from the right side, I was going to have a monster year.
Yeah, you're setting us up. Yeah, exactly.
I was going to have a monster year. You know, this year's I hit 250 from the right side and I hit 340 from the left. But just grinding out the bats from the right side, so that when I did go to the left side, now it was time to do damage. Now it was time to get those numbers. But yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly why I was a different hitter. I've never thought about that.
But most
switchers are.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the numbers, I would say that a majority of switch hitters in the history, you know, maybe this guy hit from a higher average from this side. Maybe this guy hit more homers from this side, more damage. Maybe this guy struck out more from this side of the plate. Maybe this guy put the ball in play more times on this side. But I would be willing to bet. I mean, it's a different swing. Your hands are different on the bat. You're looking with a different dominant eye to the pitcher. Maybe you stand somewhere different in the box. There's some speed switch hitters. From the left side, maybe slap it to the left side of the infield and run. Maybe from the right side, maybe they felt a little bit more power because they were a right-handed thrower, top hand dominant. But be who you are. Figure out, that's the hardest thing for us sometimes, is to figure out who we are. You know, we see all this social media. You see these guys hitting bombs. You see the exit velo. You see the launch angles. And we want to be who we're not. I can't dunk a basketball. I'm not going to go out and try to win a dunk contest, right? Like, I never will. That's not who I am. But if I'm a guy that can shoot a three, that's who I am.
Yep.
If I'm a baseball player and I can't consistently drive the ball out of the ballpark, why am I going to work on driving the ball out of the ballpark? If I'm a speed guy that can steal 50 bags, why am I going to lift the ball in the air? I need to get on base for the guys that can drive the ball out of the ballpark. Cal Raleigh's not trying to be a base stealer. He's driving the ball out of the ballpark. You know, this is the first year that Soto ever stole 30 bags. You know, he's got 30. He's 30-30.
Wow.
But, you know, Freddie Freeman, he gets his few bags, but he knows who he is.
Yeah.
You know, the leadoff hitter for the Rays, the kid that plays center field, Simpson. He could fly. I see that guy taking pitches, working the count, putting the ball in play. The guy's going to lead the big leagues in bags. He's been up half the year. He knows who he is. But it's hard for us sometimes to identify the type of player we are. But once we can identify who we are, we can start being that guy more consistently. Like I said, it's okay to be a base stealer. It's okay to be an on-base guy. You don't have to hit the homers. You know, there was that commercial when we were kids with Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine. Yeah. You know, chicks dig the long ball.
Yeah.
You know, and they start working out, and they, you know, and by the end they're hitting homers. But I mean, if you're not built that way to drive the ball out of the ballpark, it's okay. It's okay. We need guys in the lineup to set the table.
That's right.
It's okay. Be who you are. Figure out who you are, then be that guy.
Yep. And that's where a big part of the program where we work with guys is like, we want to find someone with similar body comp to you, someone who plays like you, but you know, if you're big and long arms, like, we're not going to go study Bregman's swing and try to duplicate that, you know? And I think that's important to do. And I wish I would have compared myself. I always loved Michael Young, being a Rangers fan. It was like, I think I lucked out that one of my favorite players was actually a decent, you know, comparison for me. But I think that's huge for younger guys to have. Joey, I just want to say thank you, man. This is a shorter interview. We're about to head to the airport. But, man, you got one of the purest swings. I remember playing against you, and you're a stud. And just the fact that you got to spend so much time with Chipper Jones and all these greats, it's just really cool. This was really cool insight. So thanks a lot, bro.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Got it, bro. Thanks, bro.